So with that, good morning and a good day, everyone. May God's blessing be on our favor. So we will start immediately with the session because I know excited po ang lahat na magsulat ng kanilang action research. Actually, no, it's really a struggle at first. Okay, to be honest, okay, not to sugarcoat, writing an action research for the very first time is really an arduous task. Okay, it's really challenging. Mukha siyang mahirap. But I'm telling you, the second time you write, okay, the third time you write, after the first time you wrote your action research, it's just like a piece of cake. Okay? Parang kumakain na lang po kayo ng dessert. Yung una lang, medyo mag-a-adjust because we need to learn about the format, about the structure, okay, about to, especially our the emotional challenge na iniisip po natin na mahirap. Okay, yun po yung pinakauna nating kalaban. But the moment we start writing, and when the moment we start seeing the positive outcome, the goodness in doing action research, okay, I promise you will love action research. Okay, let me start this presentation with this quote from the father of modern philosophy, Rene Descartes, cogito ergo sum. So the English translation states that I think, therefore I am. Okay, i-brainwash ko muna po kayo. Okay, isipin natin na kaya natin at this moment. Isipin po natin na madali lang. Okay, because if we think that way, if that will be our mindset, it will be easy for us to accomplish the task. So with that, let me introduce my topic. Next slide po, sir. Hi, Ma'am Karen. Okay, thank you po pala kay Ma'am Karen who is presenting our slide at the moment. So I'm going to discuss action research in education. So we know that as part of our job, as part of teaching, we need to resolve problems. Okay, we need to provide solutions with our problems. Nabanggit nga po kanina ni Sir Dom, no? Yung problema patuloy. Okay, it's always there. It's continuously existing. Okay, maybe the reason is that every now and then, okay, the type of learners we teach, they change. So therefore, we need to adjust our approach. We need to discover things, strategies, techniques that will match this changing needs of our learners. Lalo na po ngayon na pandemic, isa na naman pagbabago ang naganap. So what are the adjustment that we are going to make? If we have these problems, what should be the appropriate intervention we are going to give? Kasi hindi po sapat na you have the problem here and then you report it to the office and then let the administration or our superior provide the programs to resolve our problems. Merong mga individual problems, okay, na dapat i-address ng teacher sa loob ng classroom kasi tayo po yung mas nakakaalam, okay, ng ating mga estudyante, ng ating mga klase. Okay? So again, my topic is about action research in education and my approach will be some sort of technical. So I will not bombard you with a conceptual definition about what is the action research, about the statistical tools, but it's more of teaching you the technical aspect of writing action research. So I will be presenting later my approved action research. It's a full-blown action research which I conducted year 2019. Okay, it was approved in the year 2020. So that will be our springboard in order for this session to be more, I think, relevant. Okay? So, ma'am, next slide po. So today, to orient everyone, this will be our session objectives. Number one, to further capacitate teachers with skills in action research writing. So hopefully after my lecture, after this webinar, we could have the skill, okay? Enough skill to write, to draft our own proposal. Lalo na po ang target ng ating school head from Tarik Soliman, sabi niya po kanina, is 10 action research. So, kailangan po talaga yung skill in doing action research. So, we have this demand to acquire this skill. And hopefully, I'll be able to give that in this session. Next is to gain thorough understanding of the different approaches and methodologies in conducting action research. So, for this part, I will be presenting the action research cycle, okay, particularly contextualizing on how the division office, okay, the DepEd Pampanga, would like us to conduct. So I will share with you how I started, how I drafted, how I submitted, how it was returned, how the manuscript was returned to me. Okay, particularly citing also the new normal setup in conducting action research. And lastly, to gain a deeper appreciation of the different approaches and methodologies in conducting action research. Next po, Ma'am Karen. So with those objectives, we shall follow this session outline. First, we shall discuss the definition, some sort of a brief definition, and practical significance of action research, particularly in the field of teaching and learning. Dahil teachers po tayo, our focus, our emphasis will be on answering, providing solution, interventions on classroom problems. And that refers to the teaching and learning process. Next is to discuss the process and steps in conducting action research. And lastly, I'm going to present to you the different parts of action research with sample approved action research. So I will be showing some excerpts later from the actual manuscript, okay, which I drafted, okay, and already approved in the division office, just for you to have an insight and how should we structure the paragraphs, how should we start, kasi yun po yung madalas na problema, no? Alam natin ang action research, we know the methodologies, we know that it includes statistics, but in terms of writing, we find it hard, okay, we find it hard to start yung umpisahan. Paano ang umpisa? Paano yung sa gitna? Paano yung sa dulo? So, linguistically speaking, and as a language teacher, I will be showing the structure, okay, for each part para mas maging madali po yung pagsulat natin ng action research. Because if you know the structure, if you know how to sequence the content of your slide, it will be easy for you to draft the entire action research proposal. Okay, let's begin with the first topic. Okay, that is the definition and practical significance of action research. Next slide po, ma'am. So on this photo, you can see that this big question, what is action research? Basically, as mentioned, as cited a while back by our school head, Sir Dom, action research is about action. Okay? Basically, it aims to solve problems. Okay? That's how we differentiate action research from basic research. Because when we talk about basic research, in here, we need to test theories, we need to prove some principles, okay? We need to state a generalized hypothesis, okay? Bigger population. But when it comes to action research, on the context of pedagogy, what we need to do is to find solution to issues on teaching and learning. Okay, so parang sinasabi mo, Sir Jeff, na kung may problema, solusyonan na natin. Well, that's the answer. Yan po ang sagot ng Division Office of Pampanga at DepEd. Kung may problema sa pagtuturo, then do action research. That's why you are capacitating each and every one, okay, lalo na ngayon na new normal po, about action research, because this will help a lot in order for us to facilitate teaching and learning. Okay? In other words, it's a way not only to improve our task as a teacher, but also to contribute to the academe, because we could share the results of our research to other teachers. Like if the technique, the strategy you use during the distance learning is really very effective, then it will be helpful in the entire learning community. So this differentiates action research from basic research. Now, to detail more on this, I have this table differentiating basic research from action research. Next slide po, ma'am. Okay, as you can see, when we would like to state the objective for basic research or aim, okay, is to develop and test educational theory and derive generalizations. So it's like you have the representative population and then it will be generalized. The results will represent everyone. But when it comes to action research, it's more specific, it's more contextualized, and it uses a small group. Okay, a small group of respondents as a small group of participants. Hindi po siya ganun kalaki. That's why it's easy to handle, it's easy to manage, and it's doable within a short period of time. So usually po, 3 to 6 months, they would allow you to conduct the action research, but not 1 year. Parang thesis na po yun, no? So for action research, I repeat, our emphasis is to find solution, which means, okay, this boils down to saying that action research should start with a problem. Okay? If you've experienced, let's say, for instance, a problem in the performance of your learner, okay, may 49 40 students ka in your classroom and then merong isa na hindi natututo. It could be a source of a problem. Okay, a potential source for action research kahit na isa lang. And that in that case, you could conduct a case study. Bakit sa tuwing nagtuturo ako, lahat naman natututo, pero bakit itong nag-iisa na to hindi natututo? Okay, it's not gaining something, it's not learning something, it's failing the examination, the quizzes, the tasks I'm giving. Okay? Pwede rin naman po, let's say for instance, while you are teaching, you would see that the technique you are using is not effective in such a way that they are not responding. Okay? Yung motivation part na dapat ma-engage sila, tapos pag actual teaching na hindi sila na-engage. So these are actual scenarios in a classroom setup. Okay, even in distance learning, okay, like of course we have the blended instruction. No, we're doing a combination of these modalities. So we need to see the gap, and that will serve as our springboard, as our anchor in conducting action research. Your goal there is, I repeat, to provide solution. Now, in terms of training, when we conduct a basic research, it requires intensive training. That's why for a graduate school program, for a college thesis, it's really an entire semester. It will really require you to study K to 12 very hard for the entire semester just to prepare for that research. But when it comes to action research, you just need a limited training. So when say limited training, kahit na hindi mo na alam lahat ng statistical tool, there's no need for you to study about all of this statistical tool. There's no need for you to study all of the designs. Okay, for as long as you are familiar with what you are doing, okay, for as long as you know the tool which you are using, kahit na yun lang ang master mo, and you know how to conduct them, then that's enough for action research. I repeat, this does not require a wide range of knowledge about research. Hindi mo kailangan maging doktor, hindi mo kailangan makagraduate ng doctorate program for you to conduct an action research. Okay, and to highlight, you don't need to become a master teacher, sabi nga po kanina, to be a head teacher, to be a principal, to conduct action research. Everyone, okay, is permitted. It's because this only requires a limited training. Now, in terms of the selection of a problem for basic research, a wide range of methods are used to select a problem. So, maraming pamamaraan, may brainstorming pa po yan. But when it comes to action research, it's immediately once you see the potential problem, that's it. Okay, there's no need for you to do a different problem selection techniques, no? Yung madugo, in-depth, and then pag-aaralan pa, gagawa ka pa ng fishbone technique just to specify this one. The moment you experience that, dahil araw-araw naman po tayo nagtuturo, we do it every day. The moment you experience that, take it down. Okay? Isulat mo na yan. At pag paulit-ulit siyang nangyayari, it's a perennial problem in your class, in handling or conducting your class, in implementing the curriculum, then you are very sure at the moment that's already a potential problem for your action research. I'm here, the participating teacher identify problems during the teaching and learning process. Hindi po siya hinuhulaan. Ito po yung madalas na pagkakamali for some other action researches, no? Just for the sake of doing action research, gawa lang pong problema. Okay, they will imagine problems which are not existing, which is some sort of unethical when we conduct action research. I agree with Sir Dom when he mentioned na yung problema hindi mauubos. Kaya hindi po natin madadahilan na walang problemang nakikita. Lagi pong nandiyan yan. It's always there. All we have to do is to open our eyes and open our minds, okay, to provide solutions for this. Okay, next slide po, ma'am. Okay, that ends our first, ganun lang po kabilis, no? For the definition and the practical significance of action research, because I would like to detail more on the last subtopic, which is about the parts of action research. So let's move now to the second subtopic, which is about the process and steps in conducting action research. So dito po, I will explain to you my personal experience and how I submitted from the moment I drafted my research up to the moment it was approved and I sent my exact manuscript in the division office. So this on your screen is the process, okay, the general concept, the general process and steps in conducting an action research. So you would see the five step cycle in here. Identify the problem, you devise a plan, that's the actual writing of the proposal. Okay, act to implement your plan. So upon receiving the approval of the division office, okay, they will give you the certificate of approval, okay, signed of course by the authorities in our division office. That's the exact time in which you are going to implement your plan. Okay. After that, you shall observe and collect. Okay. Observe, collect, and analyze your data. So in here, you need to observe results. Okay. While the implementation is ongoing, you need to have this specific tools in order to record what's happening. Hindi lang po tayo yung nakatayo dyan nanonood. Okay? And we should not rely on memory. If there are things that are very unusual, if there are things that are very impressive, okay, notable while conducting the research, write them down so that this notes that you have will be used for drafting your full-blown action research. Okay? Hindi na tayo manghuhula kung ano pa ikakwento natin dun sa part na iprepresent natin yung discussion and results. So I repeat, it starts with identification of a problem and your goal is to propose a change. Okay? From the identification of the problem, okay, this first step, kailangan mag-isip na po tayo ng possible solution. Okay? Saan manggagaling yung possible solution, Sir Jeff? We have studied a lot when we were in college about the different techniques, different methodologies, different strategies, okay, in implementing teaching inside the classroom. Aside from that, we could also do some reading regarding some trends, okay, regarding some trends when it comes to curriculum implementation. So, pwede na mag-adapt po tayo ng technique strategies from these people. Or, if, let's say for instance, in a magazine, in an international research paper, may nakikita kayong potential technique or strategy, material na ginamit po ng researcher sa ibang bansa na pwede nating i-adopt. These are the possible innovation na pwede po nating gamitin. So, in here, I just would like to highlight that once you saw the problem, think immediately of your proposed solution, of your proposed innovation, and that will serve as your guide in drafting your action research. Okay? So, I repeat, for the first step, your goal is to propose a change. Kailangan merong pagbabago dun sa outcome at the end of the cycle. That's the goal of using the innovation. So, kailangan pag-aralan talaga po ng maigi. Another, sir, pwede po ba na gumawa kami ng sarili naming intervention, ng sarili naming solution, just to fit in with the problem? That's also allowed. Okay? And I think that would be better because it's an original proposal. Okay, an original suggestion coming from a classroom teacher. Okay, for the reason that we know very well the context, we know very well our learners, and we know what they need. So we could draft our own innovation, our own strategy if we would like to. That's also possible. Okay, for the last part, reflecting and sharing, okay, all we have to do is to reflect on the action. So dito na po pumapasok yung when we interpret results, okay, when we write the conclusion, and when we write the recommendation. Reflect. Okay, are we going to accept or reject the proposed innovation, the proposed strategy, or not? May nagbago ba? Okay, tama ba yung pagkaka-implement? Okay, is it something worthy? Okay, based on the results. And how do we reflect on this? Of course, we need to use some statistical data if your approach is quantitative. Okay, at makakausap niyo po ang mga math teachers dyan kung paano masasabi kung kailangan tanggapin ba. Okay, is it a success? Is it effective or not? Okay, now we also have this qualitative method na kamakailan lang ay tinatanggap na po ng division office. And that's what I did for my recent action research. So it's dominantly qualitative in nature, and it's more on reflection, and the source of my decision comes from observation, okay, comes from interview. Okay, so I repeat, this is the basic and common process and steps in conducting action research. Next, ma'am. Now, just to orient everyone on my experience about drafting or writing my action research, these are the steps I did in doing action research. So first, of course, I draft the proposal following the standard format suggested by the Department of Education. Hindi po tayo pwedeng gumawa ng sarili nating format kasi babalik po yan. Okay, Sir Gilas, if you know Sir Gilas from the division office, he will require you to revise, okay, those parts. So strictly, we need to follow the format suggested by the Department of Education, and that's what I'm going to show later. Next is to submit soft copies of the proposal in MS Word and PDF through the DepEd mail account of Sir Gilas. Okay, nare-research naman po yan din sa ating site for sa records unit. And I know Ma'am Love already sent hers. Okay, you could ask for the Gmail, okay, the DepEd mail of Sir Gilas. Now, for this part, step number 2, my first step I did, okay, was to submit was I submitted the actual manuscript, KD hard copy. Kaya lang binalik sa akin, I was instructed that the submission should be done online. So, ganun po kadali at ganun ka-convenient ngayon. But of course, with the manuscript, with the soft copy, you need to have the transmittal signed by your principal. Nakasabay mo din pong isasubmit sa DepEd mail ni Sir Gilas. Just to let the office know, the division office know that your proposal was explained, okay, in the office of the principal, okay. Next, number 3, wait for the approval of the proposal through the DepEd mail. So Sir Giles will give you instructions on what to do next, okay, like instructions on the reminders, follow this format, this part of your research is plagiarized, so you need to revise it. May mga ganun pong mga mga suggestions na ibibigay Sir Gilas. But once it's okay, automatically you will be prompted with a message that you need to conduct now your action research, and it was approved together with the certificates. Nandun na po yun. Okay, common suggestions na binibigay or instructions from the research office are as follows. Provide only what is indicated in the format for action research. So, bawal po tayong magdagdag. Okay, see to it that the criteria for action research is strictly followed. And we have that regional memorandum, okay, regarding the conduct of action research. Nandun po sa mga annexes yun kung paano i-conduct or the different standards in doing action research. Okay? Another, you need to fill up several forms also, okay, in relation to conducting this action research, as yung for ethical principles, okay, for the appendices, okay, the consent form, ayan, mga forms po na kailangan i-fill out. And good news is that these forms were already structured and formatted. So they are now a standard template in which we are going to just fill in the information needed. Ganun po sila kadali. Okay. Next, after that, you follow the instructions received from the research and planning office. Wag po nating i-conduct hanggat walang approval. So, hintayin po natin yon. And then, if there are some directions or instructions stating we need to revise some parts, then do it. Pero madalas po, just to share, ang binibigay na instruction for this second time that I submitted my action research proposal, ang madalas na binibigay na instruction is about plagiarism checking. Okay, let's make sure that when we adapt, okay, the thoughts, okay, the insights from the other authorities, let's find time to reword. Okay, I do not advise po yung you will just quote, okay, unquote the word, though it's allowed, but when it comes to plagiarism check po kasi kahit na na-quote at unquote yan, i-consider niyang plagiarism yan. Meron po kasing system si Sir George na nag-check kung plagiarized ba o hindi yung ating paper. That's why I am advising everyone in here that when we would like to quote and unquote, it would be better that if we reword. Okay, if we reword the entire phrase and then cite the author, of course. Do not forget to cite the source. Okay, fifth step, submit the soft copies of the corrected one, and once you receive the certificate of approval, you move to number 5. Okay, of course you will implement the action research. Okay, you will include now the results, okay, the conclusion, and the recommendation. Yung tatlong pong yun na lang yung idadagdag. So once it's completed, follow the fifth step, submit soft copies of the completed action research in MS Word, dalawa po, and in PDF format using your DepEd mail account. So, ito rin yung isang problema because some teachers would use other Gmail account when sending their action research. It's an impression to Sir Gilas na maraming ginagawa, no, na baka galing ng private school, baka galing ng ibang school. So, to make it more formal and valid, okay, para agad pong mapansin, do not forget to use your official DepEd account. Okay, when it comes to sending. And then after that, just wait for the email confirmation for AR for your action research. Okay, the email confirmation will contain the approval, okay, and the certificate of completion. And that's it. Okay, that these are the steps that we follow in conducting an action research. So from beginning up to the end. Ang technique po dito, no, just to share, when you submit your action research proposal, think that the one who will read is a busy person. So, paano ang gagawin? Dapat yung title page pa lang ulam na. Okay, even if some experts are saying that the title is just a title, but it's the cover. It's the entire piece. At naaalala ko, nung nag-submit po ako ng face-to-face pa nun, during face-to-face interaction, I submitted the paper to Sir Gilas, okay? Personally kasi pinaakyat ako na pinatawag ko. Upon seeing the title, agad-agad, sinabi niya conducted immediately. Hindi pa niya binuksan. So that's how effective research title are. Okay, research titles are. So I'm advising that when we draft the action research title, gandahan po natin. Okay? Again, next po, ma'am. Okay, now let's move on the actual workshop. Okay, I will be orienting you on how I structured, how I formatted my action research, of course, following the standards of the Division Office of Pampanga. So bear with me because I will be bombarding the slides with some excerpts, okay, from my actual manuscript. So medyo marami pong lilitaw dyan. I know, bawal po yung ganun, no? Kailangan bullet lang. But just to show you, dahil malayo po tayo sa isa't isa, just to show you how I patterned, okay, for each part and how I wrote the paragraphs, I will be showing you some excerpts on this slide. Next po, ma'am. On your screen, you would see the basic parts of an action research recommended by the Department of Education Division Office of Pampanga. Of course, the instructions, the directions came from higher ups, came from the regional office. Ito po yung standard format na fina-follow natin for action research. So we have the title page, the table of contents, okay, the context and rationale, Okay, under that, you have research questions or the statement of the problem. Okay, hypothesis. If the study requires only, okay, hindi po kailangang ipilit yung hypothesis kung hindi naman kailangan. Usually, we indicate the hypothesis if your approach is experimental. Okay, is something quantitative. Okay, like if you would compare pre-test scores versus post-test scores, then you need to indicate the hypothesis because it's hypothesis testing you are using. Itetest po kasi natin yung hypothesis kung totoo ba o hindi. Okay, kung halimbawa may difference dun sa test scores, okay, between pre and post, then kung null hypothesis, there is no significant difference, you decide whether to accept or to reject. Ganun po yung decision making na gagawin sa conclusion. But for some research which some researches which do not require hypothesis, hindi po natin kailangang ipilit. Okay? Only those which requires us to use hypothesis. Next is significance of the study, scope and limitations, and then we have the method. Okay? That's the next major part. The types of research, the type of research which we are going to employ, the respondents, okay, description of them, sampling method, the proposed innovation intervention strategy and instruments, data collection procedure, ethical consideration, data analysis, your work plan, okay, synonymous to an action plan, the cost estimate, the plan for dissemination and utilization. This refers to uh, upon completing your research, how are you going to relay the results to people who might benefit from the results, okay, from that action research which you drafted or which you completed. And then you have the results and discussion. Now, for the results and discussion, we don't have a standard format, okay, suggested by the division office. So what do we need to do? If in your research question, you drafted 3 questions, definitely under results discussion, yun yung magiging pattern mo. Yung tatlong tanong na din-draft mo po dun sa research question mo. Ganun lang po yun kasimple. Hindi po natin kailangan mag-isip kung paano pagsunod-sunirin. It depends on how you patterned the specific questions in the research question part in your action research. And then you have the references, the appendices, okay, which contains the instruments, the consent and assent letters, a declaration of anti-plagiarism and absence of conflict of interest, and scanned copy of land back ATM, okay, in which you're going to indicate the branch, the account number, and 3 sample specimen. Okay, para saan po yung dulo? Baka po kasi mamaya ma-approve sa birth, okay, for research funding. Ayan, may katumbas po ano yan, pondo na manggagaling sa division office. So, isama na po natin para isang submission na lang. Okay, let's begin discussing about the title page. Next slide po, ma'am. Okay, this on your screen was the exact title page I used for my very first action research. Okay, way back 2019, and it was approved February 2020. No, bago po ang pandemic. Okay, I started this implementation around August, okay, September. So ganun po siya medyo ano no, kahaba. It's entitled Benchmarking of the Textual Qualities of Student Editorials, a Genre Analysis. So under this, I've included the word benchmarking. Actually, nasuggest po ito ng prof namin in the graduate school program. That's why it takes a lot, no? It helps a lot if you enroll in graduate school program kasi ang dami mong nakukuhang idea. Instead of using the word effectiveness, okay, relationship, na medyo cliche na pag nakita yun ng nag-a-approve ng action research, okay, parang itatabi niya na agad yung papel niya because it's common. Okay, maraming nang na-conduct na ganito. Kahit gaano pa kaganda yung nasa loob, if the title, di ba, hindi mo siya bubuksan. Hindi mo na siya pagtatangkaan na kumbaga meron ng first impression. Kung bubuksan mo man, you already have the first impression that it is common. It's usual, it's ordinary. Okay? So ganun po yung madalas na nangyari. Kaya pag-isipan po natin na maigi, okay, yung ating research title because that will serve as the cover. Okay, that will serve as an appetizer. Okay, it must predict in writing your title, make sure that it must predict the content of the research, meaning to say it should represent the entire action research which you are going to conduct. So under here, definitely I'm going to benchmark about the textual qualities of student editorials. So I'm going to make an analysis of editorial output, because as a school paper advisor, naging problema ko po ito, no, how to coach. Yun yung tanong ko sa sarili ko, how to uh, state specific instructions and how to structure an editorial. Eh, bakit hindi ko gawa ng action research? That's the reason why I did this one. Okay? So, another, it must be interesting. Okay? Attention grabbing. Kaya magpaalam na po tayo dun sa mga title na may relationship, effectiveness, okay? Yung common, improving, ayan. Let's think of synonyms, okay? Yeah, let's use words that create a positive impression. Next po, ma'am. So another, eto naman po yung approved action research proposal ko for this year. Okay, which is still about campus journalism. Okay, it's entitled Exploring on the Discourse Strategies and Hedging Devices in Campus Journalism Text, Basis for a Coaching Program of School Paper Advisors. So what's the common ground here? In both of the title I use, makikita niyo po, I use a gerund. Okay? Usually, nagtatapos sa ing. So that's I would suggest, because siguro po, I would say, no, I could attest to that, na etong dalawang to nag-uumpisa sa gerund, and then it was noticed by Sir Gilas. Okay, start with a gerund. That's my first recommendation. But if you have other ways, okay, in writing your title, be free to do so. What I'm saying is that based on personal experience, ito yung madalas pong napapansin. Second, you avoid commonly used words such as yung effectiveness, okay, improvement, improving, relationship. In other words, if you will use the same, kung gusto mo yung effectiveness, then you use synonyms. Or just drop the word effectiveness. Then that's the exact title. Okay? You indicate also, next po ma'am, indicate also the other elements, okay, such as the intervention to be used, okay, the target group, okay, the expected change, okay, the target concern or benefit. So we have an example here. Let's say, for instance, okay, your intervention is about game-based instruction. Yun po yung gusto nating i-propose, okay, na solution sa ating problema. And your goal is to make the grade 9 learners more participative during oral discussion and studying. So we have these elements, no? Nandiyan yung game-based instruction, yun yung intervention mo, and that's your goal. And this too should always be present in your action research. Example, balikan ko po yung exploring. Okay, my intervention is about exploring or analysis of the hedging devices. Okay, the discourse strategies na nandun na sa winning pieces. Okay, kasi po dito I studied the winning editorial text in the cluster level. Kumbaga, these are the standards already, nanalo na sila. So, anong qualities ang meron sila? Yun yung tanong noon, no? And that's my proposed intervention. And what's my goal? That could serve as a basis for a coaching program in of our four school paper advisors. Now, in here, since we have the stated intervention and stated goal, the possible research title, okay, following po yung suggestion na sinasabi ko, but I repeat that writing the title is not limited to my suggestion. There are a lot of ways. Okay, following that suggestion, I would indicate employing game-based instruction in activating oral participation among Math 8 students. Did I use the word relationship? Did I use the word comparison? Okay. Did I use the word effectiveness? No. Okay, it's immediately what I'm going to do. Yung sinasagot niya yung tanong na what I am going to do in action research. Okay? Another possible research title for this one is Activating Oral Participation of Math 8 Students Through Game-Based Instruction. Okay, so I hope you've gained something about writing the research title. Though they are saying po, conventionally speaking, the title should be the least priority when conducting research. But in reality, the way I see it, the way I observe it, it should also be a priority. It should not be the most prioritized, but it should be equal to the other parts of our action research kasi yan po yung mukha ng ating papel. Okay, at pag nagpasa tayo, hindi naman po tayo nagpapass ng action research na nakabukas. Okay, hindi naman tayo magpapass ng soft copy, okay, ng PDF na nag-uumpisa agad dun sa methodology. We always begin with the cover page. So make sure that you make it appealing. Okay? Next, ma'am. So now, using the completed action research I had in 2020, which is this one, I will be presenting the different parts of action research with specific instruction on how I formatted and drafted for each part. Next slide po, ma'am. So this is the table of contents. So technically, okay, after the cover page, following is the table of contents. All you have to do is to follow yung standard format na binigay ng division office. Once Sir Gilas replied with your question, okay, asking about the table of contents, bibigay naman po niya yung format. So all you have to do is to indicate the number. Okay? At madali lang siya kasi sa mga memorandum na nilabas recently, nandun na yung mga parts. So all we have to do is to type. But make sure that when you start typing, you use the standard paper format of the Division Office of Pampanga. Ito po yung margin na meron sila. Ito po yung borders na ginagamit natin. Hindi po tayo pwedeng gumawa ng sariling format natin. So you may ask maybe the research coordinator of your school with regard to this document. Okay, this standard format, standard paper, pati yung border margin, okay, the size of the paper, nandun na po, naka-format na siya agad. All we have to do is to encode. Okay? May hirap po kasi based on experience, no? Yung una ko pong ginawa, wala itong margins na ito because I'm not aware. So I did that in a raw, okay, Microsoft Word document. And what's the struggle? When I transferred the exact manuscript or the exact content of my action research from the raw Microsoft Word na walang borders, medyo nagulo po yung mga table, nagulo po yung mga paragraphs, okay? May mga adjustment na naganap. And it will be different if you will start immediately using this paper. So, i-format po natin agad using this paper. Next po, ma'am. Okay, now, in writing the context and rationale, okay, what should we do? On your screen is an example, excerpt, okay, on how I started my context and rationale. So simply, pinaganda lang, no? This is simply the introduction of the research, okay? This is simply the introduction of an action research. Now, you would see on the screen, I highlighted the first part and the second part, okay, was not highlighted. So in here, I use this technique. I started with a general concept, okay, or a common knowledge. Okay, I quoted on that, like saying, success in creating an effect in writing depends on the style applied by the author. Style functions to create understanding and to establish connection between the writer and the audience. That's a general knowledge, okay? That's a common knowledge that we know. Okay, doon ko po siya inumpisahan. So, from general, moving now to specific statement. And that is the other one, okay, the second part, which was not highlighted. This proves to be an unchanging fact across genres. Like in the field of campus journalism, so nagiging specific na ako, no, from the general concept of writing, na pag binasa mo, it could be about paragraph writing, it could be about novel writing, okay? But in here, on the second part, from general, ini-specify ko na, binibigyan ko na po ng hint kung saan papunta ang aking action research. To be an unchanging fact across genres, like in the field of campus journalism, which requires student journalists, okay, to devise strategic style of writing that captures the attention of the reader. Okay, it's the second part is a link, okay, from the general statement to the present study. So that's how I drafted my introduction. Una pa lang po yun. Pero syempre, ang introduction po, no, actually, based on the rule of thumb, the introduction should consume 10% of the entire manuscript. Okay? Kung ang completed manuscript mo po ay 5,000, suggested na introduction should be 500 words. Okay? I repeat, rule of thumb, 10% of the entire paper should compose the introduction. So if your entire manuscript is composed of 5,000 words, then you should have 500 words for your introduction. But Sir Jeff, is it permitted, allowed na mas less pa? That's wala na, it's just a rule of thumb. It's just a common knowledge that we know, no, suggested by the expert, that nobody could dictate about the length of your action research. Pero, technically speaking, compared to a basic research, dapat maikli lang po ang action research introduction. Hindi siya ganun kahaba. Okay, it's just an action research and we love that. Okay, kaya nga simplified version po siya na. Now, after stating the general and specific statement on my first paragraph, I followed this suggested and known format. Okay, if you are aware with TIOC, the trend, issues, objective, and contribution part. So this four-step approach of TIOC refers to number one, trend. Okay, identify the trend in the field. Okay, ano ba ang uso? Ano ba yung actual na nangyayari? What's happening? Okay, if that is the actual scenario, ang second statement mo nun will be focusing on the issues. Okay? What are the underlying issues, okay, about the trend? If this is the trend, ito yung nangyayari, what's the problem? Okay, that's the time in which you are going to state the actual problem. You need to state the basis. Bakit mo nasabi na problema yon? What are your facts? Okay, what are your observations? Next part of the introduction, which again, this is just a suggestion para mas madali po yung sequencing kasi minsan, no, nasusulat po tayo ng context and rational, sulat-sulat, hindi natin alam kung saan siya papunta. So this approach is something linguistic. Okay, talking about the structure and how we begin and how we end. Okay, next part, after identifying the issue, state now your objective. You state the overall objective or intent of the paper in light of the gap identified. So if this is the gap, okay, what's the point of your paper now? What are the actions? What are the proposed actions to be done? What will be the benefits? Okay, and that connects with letter C, talking about the contribution. So discuss the possible contribution of your research attempt. Okay, your research attempt. Okay, in improving or advancing the disciplinary theory or advancing the teaching and learning process. Okay? Improving the policy. Kung ano man yung gusto mong i-improve. Okay, state that. So, this is helpful at ito po yung ginagamit ko consistently when writing my context and rational part. And also when writing yung mga basic research na ginagawa ko po. It's a way to guide me. Okay? It's a way for me to write easily because I know in my mind what's next. Okay, what's the next part? So, pwede pong isang paragraph dun sa general and specific statement. Okay, another paragraph dun sa trend. Okay, the third paragraph will talk about the issues. The fourth paragraph will talk about the objectives. Okay, the fifth paragraph will talk about the conclusion. Okay, pwede rin naman pong pagsamahin sa isang paragraph, let's say for instance, yung trend at yung issues, yung objective and contribution. That's possible. Next, ma'am. So in here, on your screen, aside from the general and specific statement, eto na po yung sinasabi kong trend, okay, on your screen. In the field of campus journalism and student press conferences, linguistic choice and writing styles are among the deciding factors that dictate a connection between writers and the evaluators of their output, okay, and the content in the middle, okay, represented by ellipses, the triple dots. Okay, this observation connotes that learning about a considerable language choice and other qualities of winning written discourse must be a conscious task for all student journalists and their teacher coaches. So I'm now raising the issue, okay, the problem, na mas pinalala ko pa, no? Kasi kailangan patunayan mo na problema talaga siya. Okay, sa susunod na paragraph. Next po, ma'am. Identification of the textual qualities of winning editorials is necessary to guide beginning student journalists and school paper advisors. Okay, that's the objective. Now, dinagdagan ko po yung issue stating that on the next sentence, since there is only limited number of studies on editorials, okay, because there are few references, okay, talking about editorial writing, particularly in the field of campus journalism. And usually, they are based on major reference books. So, hindi po sila contextualize kung ano talaga yung meron in the actual field. So, that's what I raised here. So, part of this paragraph is talking about the issues and the objective of the paper. Next po, ma'am. Next slide po, ma'am. Okay, to learn about Ethiopian contribution, to learn about the elements that consist an effective discourse for editorial writers implies empowerment of the student journalist, and in consequence, such leads, okay, the school to reap laurels, okay, through students' co-curricular and extracurricular achievements, talking about the contribution. So it's easy for me to draft this one because I know the pattern, the TIOC pattern. Okay, so I hope it helped, okay, in writing your action research introduction. Next slide po, ma'am. So let's have another example, okay, following that pattern. So for example, in outlining your action research introduction, okay, talking about peer tutoring, kunyari yun yung proposed innovation mo or strategy, okay, in teaching. So the general concept is that you would state collaboration in learning plays a vital in enhancing the social, emotional, and communication skill. So that's the general concept, followed by the specific statement. As a way to promote collaboration, learners are immersed in a variety of activities requiring them to work with peers. So I'm now introducing the concept of peer teaching, specifying the context, and then the trends, the issues, the objective, and contribution. So para mas madali po ang pagsusulat, you may create a table and outline like this one para pag nagsusulat ka ng paragraph, you know the thought which you are writing under each part. Okay, and actually, this is as good as a research introduction. All you have to do is to expand on you, especially on dun sa trend po, dun sa issues, state the facts. Okay, so this is how I patterned my research introduction. So hopefully, I repeat, this will help para hindi na po tayo mag-isip kung anong isusulat na susunod, paano umpisahan, paano tapusin ang context and rational part. Next slide po, ma'am. Next part is the research question. Okay. Now, in here, I have the exact research question I used for the completed action research I had. So, first part talks about the general aim. Okay? The aim of this study is to determine the textual qualities of winning editorials on secondary school. So, yun lang gawin mo. State your general aim. The aim of this study is to improve the academic performance of grade 9 students in Araling Panlipunan. Okay. By the way po pala, permitted po pala yung gumamit ng Filipino language if the medium of instruction, let's say for instance in Filipino, is Filipino, pwede po yun. That's allowed. That's permitted in action research. Gagamitin. Actually, mas mahirap pa, no? Or maybe I'm not a Filipino major, kaya nahihirapan ako. Kasi ang hirap magkwento gamit yung wikang Filipino. Okay, ang daming ang daming rules na dapat tandaan. It's really a difficult task for me. But if you feel comfortable using the language, okay, for those teachers using that medium, then feel free to do so. Okay? Doon po tayo sa research question, ma'am. Okay. So, after stating the next pa po, ma'am. The general aim, okay, yan po yung unang sentence. Specify now, okay, the questions. Okay, what are the specific questions that you would like to answer? Now, I would like you to be careful in structuring this part. Kasi sabi ko nga po kanina, like what I've mentioned, this sequencing, ordering of question will dictate your results and discussion part. So kung paano nyo po in order, in arrange ang mga research questions nyo, ganun nyo po siya i-discuss. That's how you are going to order, okay, the presentation of findings and results, okay, in your discussion part. So specifically, the study will be anchored on the investigation of the following research questions. So what structural organization is applied in composing the top 7 editorials? How do students editorialists strategize for unity, coherence, argumentative emphasis? What sentence takeoff is dominant in representative student editorial? So we call this specific questions because in here, you need to specify the specific aspects which you would like to investigate. Okay, and these specific questions you should make sure that they support, okay, in the realization of your general aim, because your goal is about textual qualities. Ano ba dapat yung hanapin mo? Okay, the structural organization, that's textual quality. You talk about unity, coherence, and argumentative emphasis, that's textual quality. Sentence take off, okay, that's about textual quality. So all of this question centers on determining the textual quality. So ganun, that's how we draft or create our research question. I repeat, from general aim moving to specific questions supporting the general aim. Let's have another example. Next slide po, ma'am. So this sample is an example of research question for an experimental type of study. So na usually madalas pong redundant na usually madalas pa. Usually we use this for action research conducted by teachers because dominantly we propose an innovation, an intervention, and then we would test whether that intervention is effective or not. So how do we format for this type of study? The aim of this study is to determine whether peer tutoring improves the academic performance of grade 9 learners in science. That's your main aim, general aim. Specifically, it will seek answers to the following questions. So, proposal po ito, kaya nasa future tense po siya. No? So, when you submit now the final output, just like the regular thought or insight that we know, you need to change the tense of the verb. Okay? Number 1, what is the level of performance of grade 9 learners in science prior to the exposure? Okay, to their exposure in peer tutoring. Second, the level of performance of grade 9 learners in science after. So prior, before, and after their exposure in peer tutoring. So this indicates, kay mula pa lang sa research question ito, you would already know that the researcher will conduct pre and post-test. Iko-compare niya po yung pre-test at post-test. Okay? This is helpful tong format na po to, lalo na sa ating field, no? Classroom teaching, madalas experimental po yung ginagamit natin. So usually pre-test and post-test to test whether the intervention or the innovation is effective or not. That's for quantitative. Kung qualitative naman, ang approach mo, it could be in a way of observation kung may nakikita kang changes. But you should make sure that you have the observation tool, okay, as your data collection for your data collection procedure. Dapat hindi nagre-rely sa memory. Meron tayong tool na gagamitin for observation and it should be valid. Okay, the tool which you are going to use should be valid. Another, pwede sa interview. Okay, using the thematic approach of organization, you will group the responses of the respondents and then you will present, okay, qualitatively. Lastly, number 3, siyempre comparison ng number 1 and 2, is there a significant difference on the performance of the grade 9 learners before and after their exposure to peer tutoring? And all of these 3 questions leads to answering your main aim, to determine whether peer tutoring improves the academic performance of grade 9 learners. Next po, ma'am. Okay, next is the hypothesis part. For the hypothesis part, this will be indicated only when needed. I repeat. So if your research is quantitative and it's experimental, definitely it's hypothesis testing. So you need to indicate the hypothesis. Example of hypothesis na alam po natin is the null and the alternative hypothesis. So for null hypothesis, It's in negative form, of course. There is no significant difference on the level of oral participation of the learners before and after the exposure of to peer tutoring. Okay? The alternative hypothesis, okay, written in positive format, there is significant difference on the level of oral participation of the learners before and after their exposure to peer tutoring. So remember, hypothesis is needed for experimental and correlational type of research. So if you do not need this, if your research is not experimental, wala namang pa-pretest at post-test, okay, wala namang statistical treatment that will identify whether to accept or reject the hypothesis, then exclude this part. Okay? Indicate only this part when needed. Next, ma'am. Next is the significance of the study. Nawala po sa aking screen. Ma'am Love, nakikita ba yung slides sa inyo? Okay, let's wait po para mas... Okay. Oo. Ay, talaga ba? Talaga ba? So hopefully everyone would gain from this one, Ma'am Love, no? Para lahat tayo magiging action researchers. At alam niyo po, the benefit of this one, no? Aside from providing solutions, malaking tulong siya sa promotion. And we know that. Okay? We know that. So if we want to seek higher positions, then we should be action researchers. Okay? Yun po yung consequence niya. But that's not the main goal, of course. Okay? Ayan. So let's move. Significance of this study is very simple. Okay, it's about listing down who will benefit from your study. I've stated the school paper advisors and teacher coaches, student editorialists, okay, administrators, the teachers of writing. So the way of listing will be from the one mostly benefiting, okay, kasi direct, no? It's about the school paper advisors and teacher coaches. To the indirect one, okay? Moving to the teachers of writing. Ganun po ang pag-sequence natin sa mga tao, okay? Institutions na magbe-benefit. Sino ba ang pinaka magbe-benefit? Okay, who will benefit the most? Listed as number 1. Okay? Who will benefit the second? Listed as number 2. Who will least benefit from your research? Okay, write it down at the latter part of the significance of the study. Now, format here is you state a short general introduction. Okay, so in here, I've stated the findings of the study will benefit the stakeholders who are directly involved in campus journalism and press conferences. Okay, talking about the school paper advisors and student editorialists. In addition, the results of the study will provide useful insights in the conduct of writing sessions of language instruction. That's why I included the teachers of writing. Okay, because they would have sample strategies on how to write argumentative essay. Okay, pwede po nilang gamitin na springboard. And we specify how to write. Okay, what are the techniques that we use. Unlike in most reference book, they would just state you need to have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Ganun lang kasimple. But in here, I would like to emphasize ko po sa action research na it will be helpful because the techniques are specific. Okay, they are contextualized on the roles, okay, on the context of the campus journalist and the teacher coaches in campus journalism. So I repeat, for significance of the study, short general introduction about who will benefit, and then below that, one by one, you list down the people, okay, the stakeholders who will benefit from that. Next po, ma'am. Next is the scope and limitations. This is very simple. Ito lang po yung mga tanong na dapat nating sagutin. Okay? We need to indicate on this part what to include in your study and also the part which will not be included. Okay? You need to clarify it in this part. So, you answer the WH questions such as what, okay, who, where, when, and how, and why. Okay, yung why po, it's just an addition if you would like to indicate that. Pero ang pinaka-importante po sa scope and limitations, okay, will be the first five WH questions. Yung who, what, where, when, and how. And that's how I sequence my scope and limitations, no? What? It refers to the focus. Now, citing on the example po, ma'am, the next ayan. Citing on the example, the focus. The study will focus on the identification of winning textual qualities of student editorials, particularly those pieces that topped, okay, the Cluster 3 Secondary Schools press conference in 2017. Okay, I've answered the focus, which is the what, and the prospect respondents. Okay, referring to who? Talking about the 7 winning editorials from secondary schools of Lubao and Florida. Ayun na po yung where ko. Okay, yung when is the year 2017. That's how I compose the scope and limitations. Ganun lang po siya kasimple. Okay. Lastly, the results of the study will represent only the outstanding editorials in the cluster level, giving space for future research on the divisional, eto na pa yung not include, no? Divisional, regional, and national levels. Okay. For the how, you may indicate the steps. How are you going to undertake? Just some sort of one-liner statement talking about the method, okay, which we're going to use for analyzing, okay, your data and how it will be presented using your manuscript. Okay, I repeat, for scope and limitations, decide on what to include and not to include by focusing on these questions. What, who, where, when, and how. Yung iba po, school year, yung nilalagay nila, they indicate the school year kung kailan ikakonduct. Plus yung group of learners, okay, yung section. Okay, and then a short description of that particular group if it's experimental. Ay nilalagay din po yung number. Ayan, 7 winning editorials from, of course, the 7 winning campus journalists. Next, ma'am. Now, let's move now to the second major part, which talks about the method. So, this part of the paper details on, ito po yung introduction na lagi kong nilalagay. Kasi all you have to do in the method part, okay, is to introduce what's the content of the method part. Okay, so the method part will discuss about the research design, the sampling method, the data collection procedure, ethical standards, data analysis, work plan, cost estimates, and plan for dissemination and utilization. Wala nang maraming nilalagay. Ganito lang po kasimple. Just introduce what's the content of the preceding paragraphs. Okay? And under this method, we have, of course, the first one, which is the type of research. Next po, ma'am. Okay, for the type of research, which if you are attending the graduate school program or if you took a research course, okay, way back in college, kung natatandaan pa po, it's about differentiating between quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods. Now, for action research, again, I would like to emphasize, inaalaw na po yung combination ng dalawa or purely qualitative. That's already permitted in the division office. Unlike before, pag sinabing action research, it's purely quantitative. Like you need to be a master of the different statistical tools. Okay, you need to be a statistician. Okay, yung mga ganyan na aspeto po. Kaya siguro nahihirapan yung ibang tao before. Meron kasi, meron mga teachers na magaling magkwento. They know how to observe. Okay, they can narrate, okay, from their experiences. And that's permitted now. Okay, and what I did for this one is a mixed method type of research. It's because I use percentages, I use frequency counts, that's a quantitative part. And then for the qualitative part, I interviewed people, okay, the teacher, coaches, and the student journalist. So that's why I use the mixed method part. So all you have to do is to uh, indicate the type of research. That's the first one. After indicating the type of research, yung pangalawang sentence po, you provide a general definition or conceptual definition of that method coming from an expert. Magre-research lang po kayo. Search Google. Pwede na yun, no? So, find a reliable source, okay, to define the method which you are going to use and then highlight that on the second paragraph. After that, from the qualitative, which is the biggest big picture or the umbrella, you specify. Okay, from the mixed method, anong gagawin? Employing genre analysis, okay, through these people, okay, that relates to linguistics. The researcher will investigate on the textual features of student editorials. And then another definition, conceptual definition about the specific tool, okay, which I'm going to use, which aligns with the major type of research I am going to employ. So, ganun po siya. State the type of research, then define. Okay, from the coming from the expert, definition coming from the expert, and then specify what tool are you going to use under this type, or what type of quantitative study, experimental ba yan? Okay, what type of qualitative study? Is it a case study? Indicate it there. And then another short definition from the expert. Okay, that already compose your type of research. Next po, ma'am. For respondents, okay, participants of the study, respondents, if you will be employing quantitative research, okay, participants, if it's qualitative. Now, what to indicate? You indicate the category, the level, the attributes, the school year, the number of respondents, and why are they chosen. So this talks about the respondents. All you have to do is to describe them. Okay, describe them based on category. Are this group the average? Okay, the exceptional, the performing ones, homogeneous, heterogeneous group, kung experimental man po yan. Okay, the study in here, as mentioned, the study will focus on improving the skills of campus journalists. Therefore, involvement of student journalists, okay, will be expected since their written outputs will become subjects for analysis. And ito yung classification nila, yung level nila, no? Campus editorialist who bagged awards, at least in the cluster level of press conference. Okay? And then state the attributes. Okay? State the school year. Okay? Kung kailan sila nanalo. Ayan. Kung anong school year na sila currently enrolled. Okay? And state why are they chosen. And that's why I indicated at the latter part. Actually, sorry, on the first part, because you want like to improve the skills of campus journalists. Okay, you need to study the written outputs of the winning student journalist. Okay, that's the reason why I chose the winning student journalist. So state the reason at the end. Okay, I repeat what to include. That's your pattern: the category, the level, the attributes, school year, and the number, kung ilan po sila. That's for respondents and participants of the study. Next, let's move to the sampling method. Okay, format for the sampling method. Papindot pa po ng isa, ma'am. The researcher will use purposive sampling. Okay, saan nakikita yan, Sir Jeff? Yung mga type of sampling method. Marami pong sampling method na makikita from the internet. They are readily made available in internet. All you have to do is to choose which sampling method are you going to use. But since here, talking about the manuscript, the actual manuscript I submitted, I already identified the participants, okay, the respondents in my study. Therefore, it's purposive. Hindi ko na kailangan mag-fishbowl technique, okay, to choose the sampling, the population that will represent, okay, the sample, okay, that will represent the entire population. So what to indicate now in this paragraph? You state the type of sampling method chosen. So I stated purposive sampling. Second, katulad po nung kanina, you provide some conceptual definition of the sampling method which you have chosen. And it should come from the experts. Okay? Why are we always citing experts, authors? It's to make your claim, okay, your argument that this type of sampling which you used is really valid. Kasi hindi lang ikaw yung nagsasabi. These are coming from the experts. And these are things which we cannot question because they are already proven, okay, by this people and widely used by a lot of researchers. Okay. Next part, okay, as after providing some conceptual definition, you state the reason for choosing the type. Okay, why? For the purpose of research, this already trims the subject to 7 outstanding editorialists Okay, from the student in Lubao and Florida Blanca as the representative editorials of the study. Okay, stating the reason for choosing the type. Bakit yun yung ginamit mo? So, it's purposive kasi the participants are already selected. They are already chosen. And they are chosen with a purpose. Kasi nga, hindi pwedeng mag-sampling tayo ng kung sino-sino estudyante dito. Kasi ang goal mo is to describe the textual qualities of winning editorials. Definitely, you are targeting the winning editorials. Now, sa inyo po, in your case, for experimental study na gagawin nyo, if you would like to do experimental type, you may do a different sampling method. And I repeat, available po sila sa internet. Hindi na natin isa-isahin kasi limited po ang time natin. Just choose which type of sampling method fits the study you would like to pursue. Next, ma'am. Now, for the proposed innovation and intervention, which could be adopted or crafted by you. So, pwede po sa dalawang yon. This is the format. You state and describe the innovation, the strategy, the intervention to be used. Okay? State the reason for choosing the strategy. And number 3, discuss how it will be operationalized or used in the study. Ito na po yung format. Ito lang yung gagawin natin in this paragraph. But in my case, since this one is not proposing an innovation or intervention, ang innovation po dito comes at the end. Okay, kasi I'm going to unravel what's beneath those editorial texts. Bakit sila nanalo? Yun yung tanong. So the result, that will comprise the proposed intervention and strategy. Kasi it's a mixed method, yun po yung nature niya. But if it's quantitative, definitely you need to propose an innovation, intervention strategy at the beginning. Doon pa lang sa umpisa, naka-state na po yan. So how do you craft your paragraph or draft your paragraph? Ayan po, on your screen, the format. State and describe the innovation, state the reason for choosing the strategy, and then discuss how it will be operationalized or used in the study. Next, ma'am. Okay, for the instrument, the common instruments that we use in action research are as follows, the pre-test and post-test. Survey questionnaires. If it's qualitative in nature, you may use observation forms, tally sheets. Okay? Ito po yung sinasabi ko, we do not rely on our memory. Okay, this is what I'm saying. We need a valid tool, a valid instrument to quantify what's really happening. So the format in here is that, of course, you need to state the instrument. Second, you provide a conceptual definition about the instrument if it's adopted. Okay. Number 3, you need to detail or describe on the parts of the instrument. Kung pre-test or post-test po siya, all you have to do is to describe the instructions, the items which included, ano ba yung laman? What are the parts of your test paper? What are the parts of the survey questionnaire? That's the third one. Fourth, you justify why is it appropriate for the study, and then state how you are going to operationalize that in the study. Next, ma'am. Okay, for the data collection procedure, we have the sample on your screen. Just to summarize what's the content, this is how I drafted for the data collection procedure. Number 1, you state the steps one by one from beginning up to the end of the study. What are you going to do first? Okay, what will be the last step? Okay, another, after stating the steps, you state again the instrument which you are going to use and the other data collection procedure to be used, such as if you will use interview, if you will use observation, documents, or records. So, ganun lang po siya kasimple. I repeat, for data collection procedure, state the parts, state the steps, state the steps one by one from beginning up to the end as what you can see on the screen. Okay, the first paragraph, of course, you will ask for consent. Okay, and after summarizing, you would see this words indicating that I am listing down the steps which I'm going to do in collecting results or data collection procedure of this action research. Okay, lastly, you state again the instrument, which you are going to use. Now, aside from the instrument na gagamitin mo, the actual instrument, You would like to use interview, you would like to use observation, other documents, indicate that also in this data collection procedure. Okay, next na. For data analysis, ayan. It's now time you have the data. What to do next? Ano ngayon ang gagawin mo? All you have to do is to identify the type of analysis which you are going to use. And in research, we have a lot of types of data analysis. But I would like to focus on descriptive analysis na madalas nating dapat iside if we are conducting an experimental type or we are using descriptive statistics. Like you would use measures of central tendency, variability, frequency, okay, yung hypothesis testing, that's descriptive analysis. So in here, you just indicate how are you going to analyze. Kung gagamit ka ng descriptive analysis, they state descriptive analysis, and how are you going to operationalize that? Paano mo siya gagawin? So it's almost similar with stating the type of study. Okay? When you state the type of analysis here, of course, you need to contextualize by means of stating how you are going to use this analysis into your actual action research. So that's what we mean by data analysis. Again, this is also stating the step by step procedure and how you are going to analyze your results. Thanks, ma'am. Okay. Just to highlight po, for data analysis, what do we need to include? Do not forget to include the statistical treatment, okay, for quantitative type of research. So may mga math teachers po tayo, pwede po tayo mahingi ng tulong sa kanila. Okay, for analysis tool, include that also. Let's say for instance, for qualitative type, okay, you may use a critical discourse analysis. Okay? Now, on this data analysis paragraph na ginamit ko, what did I mention? So, the data will be analyzed both quantitatively and qualitatively. I stated quantitatively and qualitatively. Balik ako dun sa research type ko, no? And then, I have two parts. The second paragraph discusses about how it will be operationalized quantitatively. On the other hand, yung second po na nasa ilalim, nakalagay siya, on the other hand, it talks about the qualitative part. Okay, the qualitative analysis. As simple as this. Okay, that's the entire paragraph for data analysis. So it indicate how you are going to analyze the data, state the type, and then discuss how you are going to operationalize that. Next, ma'am. Okay, for the ethical consideration, so in here, the common content would deal with the rights of the respondents. Okay, it talks about data privacy. Okay, it talks about are you allowed to mention the names, the addresses? Ayan, data privacy. State that here. Okay, the consent from guardians. Okay, superiors. Okay, prior to conducting the study. So how I drafted the researcher will seek for the consent of the respective teacher coaches who are to be identified upon the approval of the division English program supervisor and the Cluster 3 School Paper Advisors Association. And of course, the research coordinator in the division office. Considering ethics as vital part of this research, results of this study will be given to each teacher coach who mentored the outstanding student editorialist. Moreover, talking about their rights, should the coaches refuse to include their students' output, the researcher will reselect, purposefully another winning article. So if they will not permit, because of some ethical considerations, hindi natin sila mapipilit na sumali, what's your backup plan? Indicate that also in this part. Okay, next, ma'am. Next po. Naulit lang yung slide. Okay. After the ethical considerations, state now the timetable. Hindi ko na po kailangan expound ng timetable because this is similar to an action plan. Okay? But I would like to highlight that in writing your timetable or your work plan, be considerate and be critical with the time frame. Kasi po ang action research, it should be conducted in a short period of time. Okay, 3 to 6 months will do. Okay, for action research. Now, in drafting your timetable part sa mismong manuscript, katulad po na makikita nyo sa screen, balik po tayo ma'am ng slide. You have the introduction. Okay, talking about the table. Ano yung laman ng table? That's how you draft the introduction in the timetable. After that, present the table. Okay, so hindi po ito simple na timetable and then yung table na agad, table 1. No. You should have an introductory paragraph explaining about the content. What's the content? Give me an overview of what is contained in the timetable, in the work plan. Okay? Imagine yourself that you are the reader. Kayo yung magbabasa. Okay, ano ang gagawin? Anong laman nito? Give them a hint before they proceed with the table. Next po, ma'am. So these are the common parts of the work plan, the activities which we're going to do, the timeline, persons involved, expected output. Now, based on experience, minsan po kasi nagtatagal yung proposal sa division office. Ano ang gagawin nun, Sir Jeff? I-adjust mo na lang yun. Pag bumalik po yung papel, hindi nasunod yung time because of yung waiting game sa papel mo, no, for your action research manuscript. Because of the waiting game, and i-adjust mo na lang yung time frame pag ibabalik mo na yung full-blown action research. Anyway, meron naman pong instances na hindi pa binabalik yung paper but Sir Gilas will inform you, okay, through text, okay, through Facebook, through mail, na gawin mo na, conduct it. It's good as approved. Okay, we are just processing the paper, the certificates, okay, which you are going to receive in order for you to ensure with your principal that you already had the approval of the division office. May mga ganong instances po. Now, technique, lagi tayong magtanong. Yung mukha na po tayong makulit, no? Kumusta na po yung action research ko? Ganun po, para mapansin. Kasi sa dami po nagsisend ng proposal, innovation, action research, minsan natatabunan na po yan sa mail ni Sir George. So, we update from time to time. And naman po, Aldoldo, siguro daw every 2 weeks mag-update na mo po. Next, ma'am. Cost estimates. Okay, for cost estimates, tating makantinis, sir. Just indicate the actual expenses which you are going to use. Nung nagpunta po ako sa division office, when Sir Giles asked me to indicate the cost estimates, in-indicate ko pong una NA, not applicable. But he asked me, ito yung binalik niyang tanong sa akin, hindi ka ba gagamit ng papel pag nag-print ka? Hindi ka ba gagamit ng ink? Hindi ka ba gagamit ng kuryente? Pag nag-interview ka, hindi ka ba mamamasahe? Pinalagay niya po yan sa akin. Now, this is for the purpose of, baka naman, no, ma-approve ng birth, at least they have the reference. Kasi pag NA po nilagay natin dyan, kahit approve ng birth, okay, for research funding, wala silang ibibigay sa atin. So, it would be better na taasan na natin kasi babawasan din naman nila kapag sobra. Okay? Around 10,000 po yung madalas na nakita kong maximum. Okay? If you could justify for 15,000, then so be it. Next po, ma'am. So this is an example format for cost estimates. Again, introductory paragraph before the table. Same with the previous one. I repeat, introductory part, okay, generalizing on the content of the table number 2, which is about the cost estimates. And then after that, present the table. Next, ma'am. Next, we have the plan for dissemination. Malapit na po tayo sa dulo. So basically, the plan for dissemination and utilization includes those who will use the findings and results of your action research. Not only the results, also the products, okay, the innovation. Okay, so since naging effective dyan sa inyo, proven, baka naman effective din sa amin since we have the same situation. So this is a plan on how the researcher will relay the results to these people, okay, to the stakeholders. Okay, this includes completing and publishing the action research and submitting it to the offices for access of everyone who are interested, okay, with your study or who are concerned with the action research which you completed. Okay, that's the content of this part. Plan for dissemination and utilization. Okay, and that's how I drafted. I only have a 2-paragraph content for that part. And of course, you have the results and discussion. So in here, ganito lang yung format. Paano po? Format, you have the introductory paragraph, okay, for the table, the tabular presentation if it's quantitative, if it's qualitative, just omit that part, and then the verbal presentation of data, impression, and analysis. Now, if it's qualitative, pwede pong i-replace ng tabular presentation yung mga quoted interview responses. Okay? Since it's thematic organization, pwede mo i-quote siya dun sa gitna. But, it should not be the same font size, okay, and font style as the regular presentation na ginagawa natin. So, minsan po, naka-indent sila ng paloob. Okay, mas malaki yung margin, both left and right, and then mas maliit yung font, indicating that it is an excerpt. Okay, that you got that from the interview. So, I repeat, for results and discussion, all you have to follow, yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng data, the way to organize the data will depend on your research question. So how you research your question will dictate your results and discussion following this format. Okay? So describe the table, present the table, and explain the content of the table. In explaining the content of the table, just indicate the notable, the remarkable results. Wag na po nating isa-isahin that in paragraph 1, editorial 1, there are 3 sentences. In paragraph 2, no. Just indicate the overall impression for this particular table. There's no need for us to detail everything that is in the table. Next po, ma'am. Okay. In writing your conclusion, all you need to do is to verify your stated hypothesis, whether to accept or to reject. So if your hypothesis is there is no significance difference, okay, on the performance between on the performance prior and after, okay, their exposure to the intervention, then your conclusion should be, okay, there is, kung ina-accept mo siya, kung nire-reject mo siya, so you will reject the null hypothesis, then you would state it in the alternative form. So if you reject the null hypothesis, your conclusion will be about the alternative hypothesis na merong significant difference. There is significant difference on. Yun, ganun ang pagsulat mo ng conclusion. But if the study showed that there's no significant difference, then we accept the null hypothesis. Just rewrite your null hypothesis in your conclusion. But of course, under this part, what you are going to add is to justify how did it happen. Bakit siya ganun? Bakit ganun yung nangyari? What are your bases in coming up with this type of conclusion? Next, ma'am, is the recommendations. So under this, all you have to do is to answer this question. How will the results be useful? And what are the other aspects needed to be investigated? So the format will be make an introductory paragraph, okay, about your recommendation, like who will benefit, okay, how will it will be used. And number 2, the list of recommendations to, of course, the teachers, okay, the administrators. What do you recommend now after conducting the research? What's next? Okay, sa dulo niyan, madalas po inilalagay, it is also recommended that other aspects of this strategy must be investigated to further understand its effectiveness. Okay, mga ganun. That's how we format the recommendation. And then for the references, we follow the APA Style 6th edition as mandated by the Division Office. The sample format is on your screen. Anyway, ito naman pong slide na to, binigay ko kay Ma'am Love, so you could use this as reference in drafting your research, your action research. And of course, the appendices, you attach the instruments, okay, the consent and assent letters, declaration of anti-plagiarism, scanned copy of land bank, ATM. Okay, ito pong mga to, hindi na kailangan pag-isipan kasi all you have to do is to fill out the form. Okay, we already have an existing template. For the instrument, all you have to do is to attach. Okay, for the rest of the 3 at the latter part, all you have to do is to fill out the form. May mga blank po doon, lalagay mo yung pangalan mo, the name of the principal, the proponent, okay, the respondents, okay, you are going to indicate it there, and then include that in the appendices. Now, that's the end of my presentation, I think, and I would like to end on this quote. No research without action, no action without research. Talking about action research. Kung hindi po natin uumpisihan, nothing will happen. Okay? And action research is for the purpose of improving our craft, and that is teaching. So with that, thank you for listening. Good day po sa inyo.